My wife asked me to let her old friend stay in our guest room. Weeks later, his message flashed on her phone. He's suspicious. That night, I looked at them across our kitchen and said, "Keep eating." Neither of them knew what I'd already done. An old friend of hers, Jeffrey, had just separated from his girlfriend and needed somewhere temporary to stay. 2 weeks, maybe, she said. Just until he finds another place. I knew Jeffrey, but barely. We had an empty guest room. He was supposedly going through a rough breakup. I agreed. A few days later, Jeffrey arrived with 2 suitcases, a backpack, and a cardboard box. He thanked me while I helped carry his things upstairs. "I really appreciate this," he said. "I won't be in your way." I told him not to worry about it. He offered money for utilities. I refused. "You're only here a couple of weeks." He smiled. "That's the plan." For the first week, he was an easy guest. He bought groceries, cleaned up after himself, and replaced anything he finished. Then 2 weeks passed. He was still there. Aaron said an apartment had fallen through. Another week passed. Then another. By the 5th week, Jeffrey didn't feel temporary anymore. His shoes had a spot near the door. His groceries had their own shelf. There was a charger beside the couch because he liked sitting there with his laptop. He had a favorite coffee mug. None of that bothered me by itself. What bothered me was how quickly he seemed to understand our house. One morning, I was looking for the travel mugs. Before Aaron could answer, Jeffrey said, "Top shelf beside the blender." He was right. Another time I couldn't find spare batteries. "Drawer by the pantry," he said. I laughed. "You're learning this place faster than I did." Aaron laughed too. Jeffrey gave me a quick smile and looked away. At the time, I told myself I was reading too much into it. Then I started noticing other things. Inside jokes. Looks across the kitchen. Conversations that seemed to stop when I entered the room. Aaron would mention something from years ago, and Jeffrey would start laughing before she finished. I'd ask what I'd missed. "Old story," she'd say. They had history. Of course they had memories I wasn't part of. That explanation worked for a while. Then Aaron started doing small things for him that felt out of character. Jeffrey mentioned liking a particular pasta dish. 2 nights later she made it. He brought up a breakfast she used to make years ago when their friend group traveled together. That weekend she made that too. It sounds petty. But after 9 years of marriage, you know someone's habits. Aaron hated adjusting meals for people. If I didn't like something, she'd tell me to pick it out. If a guest wanted something different, she'd point them toward the refrigerator. Now she was remembering Jeffrey's preferences without being asked. I noticed. I kept quiet. Then one night, I couldn't sleep. I came downstairs sometime after midnight for water. The television was on. Aaron and Jeffrey were sitting together on the couch. They weren't touching. There was nothing obvious. But they looked comfortable. Too comfortable. Like being alone together in our living room after midnight was something they'd done many times. I stood near the bottom of the stairs. Aaron noticed me. The second she did, she shifted farther away from him. Only a few inches. But she moved. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "No." Jeffrey kept his eyes on the television. I got my water and went back upstairs. Aaron came to bed about 20 minutes later. The next morning, while Jeffrey was still upstairs, I asked her directly, "Has anything ever happened between you and Jeffrey?" Her reaction was immediate. "Are you serious?" "Yes. He's my friend." "I know. He's basically family." "That isn't what I asked." Her expression hardened. "So now you think I'm cheating on you?" "I'm asking a question." "No." Then she turned it around on me. Jeffrey was already dealing with enough. He was embarrassed about needing somewhere to stay. I was apparently making an awkward situation worse because I'd decided to become suspicious for no reason. I asked why she moved away from him when she saw me downstairs. She sighed. "I shifted on the couch." "You shifted when you saw me." "Oh my God!" The way she said it made me feel ridiculous. "You're looking for something that isn't there." I wanted to believe her. So I apologized. That still bothers me. I apologized for asking. She hugged me. Just trust me. So I tried. A few days later, I came home and found Jeffrey wearing one of my hoodies. I recognized it immediately. Why are you wearing that? He looked down. Oh. Sorry. I grabbed it from the laundry room. I was cold. Aaron laughed. You guys are basically the same size. I said. Don't wear my clothes. Jeffrey immediately took it off. Yeah. Sorry. I thought that was the end of it. Later, Aaron told me I had embarrassed him. I thought she was joking. You're serious? You didn't need to call him out like that. He took my hoodie. He borrowed it. Without asking. He apologized. So did I when I asked whether something was going on. Apparently apologizing solves everything. Her face changed. You're becoming territorial. I stared at her. Territorial? Yes. He's living in our house for free. Our house. Fine. Our house. And he was supposed to leave weeks ago. He's trying to find somewhere. So why am I the problem? She shook her head. You've decided something is happening, so now everything bothers you. I said. Maybe everything bothers me because another man is slowly becoming part of our marriage. She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. That is ridiculous. 2 nights later, I found out I hadn't been suspicious enough. Erin left her phone charging on the kitchen counter while she showered. Jeffrey was upstairs. I was cleaning up after dinner when her screen lit up. I saw his name. Then the message preview. He's suspicious. I froze. Before I could process it, another message appeared. Maybe I should leave before you make this worse. I picked up her phone. Erin and I knew each other's passcodes. We never treated our phones as private territory. I opened the conversation. The first message I saw from Erin said, "Just act normal." Jeffrey had replied. "I am," she wrote. "Not around him." I scrolled. Their affair had started almost 3 months before Jeffrey moved into our house. They had reconnected at a birthday party I'd skipped because I wasn't feeling well. I remembered Erin coming home late that night and telling me everyone had asked where I was. Apparently she and Jeffrey spent a lot of that night talking. Then they met for lunch. Then again. Eventually, those lunches became secret meetings. There were references to hotels. Messages about my schedule. Questions about when I'd be home. I kept scrolling. Then I discovered why Jeffrey had really lost his place. His girlfriend hadn't simply ended things. She had discovered the affair and kicked him out. Erin knew. My wife knew exactly why Jeffrey suddenly needed somewhere to stay. Then she came home and asked me to help the man who had lost his relationship because he was involved with her. I kept reading. There were messages from before he moved in. Jeffrey had written, "I don't know if staying there is a good idea." Erin replied, "It's temporary." He wrote, "You really don't think he'll notice?" Her answer was, "It might actually be easier if you're here. He trusts me." I read that line twice. Jeffrey responded, "This feels insane." Erin wrote, "Only if we get stupid." They even had rules. No touching in shared spaces. No unnecessary texts while I was around. No going into the guest room together unless I was gone. No leaving anything behind. They had planned how to continue the affair inside my home without getting caught. Every strange moment suddenly had an explanation. The late nights. The looks. The meals. The defensiveness. The way Erin made me feel ashamed for asking questions. Then I found the message that changed everything. Jeffrey had asked, "Do you actually plan on leaving him?" Erin replied, "Eventually. I just need to figure out what I'd lose first." I sat down. That sentence was worse than anything else I'd read. She wasn't talking about whether she loved me. She wasn't wondering whether our marriage could survive. She was calculating what leaving would cost her. She wanted to know what she would lose before making a choice. Until then, she intended to keep both relationships. I took screenshots and sent them to myself. Then I deleted the evidence that I'd sent them and put her phone back where I found it. Erin came downstairs with wet hair a few minutes later. She smiled. "Everything okay?" "Yeah." I don't know how I sounded normal. Jeffrey came downstairs soon after. The three of us spent the rest of the evening in the same house. They thought I knew nothing. That night, Erin slept beside me. I barely closed my eyes. By morning, I knew I didn't want to confront her until I understood what I needed to protect. So I went through my routine like nothing had happened. At lunch, I contacted a lawyer. I explained enough to understand what I should and shouldn't do. I checked our shared accounts and downloaded statements. I didn't move money. I didn't empty anything. I just made sure I knew where everything stood before Erin had time to prepare another version of reality. I printed several screenshots. Then I went home. Jeffrey was cooking dinner. Erin was sitting at the kitchen counter with a glass of wine. Music was playing quietly. They looked comfortable again. Erin smiled when she saw me. "You're home early." I put my bag down and sat across from them. They kept talking. Jeffrey eventually looked over. "You eating?" I looked at both of them. "Keep eating." Erin frowned. "What?" "Keep eating." Neither of them knew what I'd already done. I reached into my bag and put the screenshots on the counter. Then I looked at Jeffrey. "You need to leave tonight." Erin's face changed. "What is this?" Jeffrey didn't ask why. He went pale. I looked at him. "You already know." Erin grabbed the pages. Her eyes moved across the first one. Then the second. She looked at me. "You went through my phone?" I laughed. "That's what you want to lead with. You invaded my privacy. And you moved the man you're having an affair with into our guest room." She stopped talking. Jeffrey leaned against the counter. Erin looked at the pages again. "How much did you read?" "Enough," Jeffrey said quietly. "I'm sorry." "Pack." "I will." Erin immediately stepped in. "He doesn't have anywhere to go." I stared at her. "He had somewhere to go before you helped destroy his relationship, too." Jeffrey looked at Erin. Then at me. "What did she tell you?" I frowned. "About what?" He turned toward her. "You said he knew." Erin's expression changed. "Jeffrey, stop," I said. "Knew what?" Jeffrey ignored her. "She told me your marriage was basically over." For a second, I thought I'd misunderstood him. He kept going. "She said you two were still living together because separating everything would take time. She said you knew she was planning to leave." I looked at Erin. "Did you tell him that?" She didn't answer. "Erin. It was complicated." "No." "Did you tell him that?" She started crying. Jeffrey looked angry now. "You said you had already talked about divorce." I said. "We never did." He stared at her. "You told me he knew." Erin wiped her face. "I said things were bad." "That isn't what you said." I stood there watching the entire situation shift. She had created two different realities. To me, Jeffrey was an old friend who needed temporary help. To Jeffrey, I was practically an ex-husband who hadn't finished leaving. She had told each of us exactly what was necessary to keep us from interfering with what she wanted. Jeffrey asked her, "Did you ever tell him you wanted a divorce?" She said nothing. "Did you?" "No." Jeffrey laughed once. "So what was the plan?" "Please don't do this." "What was the plan?" "I didn't know what I wanted." "You told me you were leaving him." "I thought I was." He stared at her. "Were you actually going to?" She started crying harder. She didn't answer. Jeffrey went upstairs. Erin called after him. "Jeffrey!" He turned around. "Don't." Then he disappeared down the hallway. I told Erin I wasn't discussing anything with her until he was gone. About 45 minutes later, Jeffrey came downstairs carrying the same 2 suitcases he had arrived with. He stopped near the door. "I know it doesn't mean much, but I'm sorry." I looked at him. "You knew she was married?" He nodded. "Yeah." "You still did it?" "Yeah." "And then you moved into my house." He looked down. I said, "Don't apologize now because you want to leave feeling better about yourself." He didn't argue. "Fair." Then he walked out. The door closed. Erin and I were alone. She sat at the counter. I stayed standing. For a while neither of us spoke. Then she said, "I love you?" I asked. Do you love him? She looked down. I don't know. Then don't tell me you love me like it fixes something. It doesn't. But I do. Why did you bring him here? He had nowhere to go. That isn't why. She wiped her face. I felt responsible. Because his girlfriend kicked him out after finding out about you. Yes. So you brought him here. I know how bad that sounds. It doesn't sound bad. It was bad. She covered her face. After a while, she said she had felt trapped between both relationships. I asked her what that meant. She said the affair had felt different when it existed outside normal life. Secret meetings. Private conversations. Seeing each other only when everything felt exciting. But she still loved me. She didn't know whether what she felt for Jeffrey was strong enough to destroy our marriage. I said, So you moved him in? She hesitated. Then she said the sentence that ended any possibility of reconciliation for me. Part of me wanted to know what being around him every day would feel like without losing you first. I stared at her. She immediately tried to take it back. That came out wrong. No. It came out perfectly. That isn't what I meant. You wanted to see what life with him felt like while keeping me here in case it didn't work. I was confused. You turned our house into a trial run. She started crying again. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You were comparing us without telling me there was a competition. I know it was selfish. That's one word for it. The affair itself was bad enough. But that confession told me how she had been thinking. She hadn't just been afraid to leave. She wanted the safety of our marriage while testing whether another relationship could replace it. I said, I spoke to a lawyer today. Her face went still. What? I already spoke to one. You called a lawyer before talking to me? I tried talking to you. You told me I was imagining things. We can fix this. No. Please don't decide tonight. I didn't. She stood up. 9 years. You're ending 9 years because of this? I looked at her. You were willing to gamble 9 years to see if another man felt better. She had no answer. She asked about counseling. I told her I wasn't interested. Then I asked her to stay with her sister, Kristen. At first, Erin refused. She reminded me the house was hers too. I told her I knew that, and wasn't going to force her out. But I also told her I would sleep somewhere else if she stayed. I wasn't sharing a bedroom with her. Eventually, she called Kristen. Kristen arrived later that night. She looked confused when she came inside. What happened? I said. Ask Erin. Kristen looked at her sister. Erin had packed a bag and wouldn't meet her eyes. Not here, she said. They left. The house went quiet. I sat on the same couch where I had seen Erin and Jeffrey together after midnight. For a moment, I started wondering how many other nights they had sat there while I was upstairs. Then I stopped myself. I already knew enough. I didn't need to invent new ways to hurt myself. The separation became practical quickly. Erin came back a few days later while I was out and collected more clothes. We communicated mostly through messages about bills, accounts, documents, and appointments. Then Jeffrey contacted me. I almost deleted his message. He said he wasn't asking for forgiveness. He just wanted me to know he had cut contact with Erin. Once he discovered she had lied to him about the state of our marriage, he started questioning everything else she had told him. He said whatever he thought their relationship was, it wasn't real enough for him to trust anymore. I didn't respond. Erin lying to him didn't make him innocent. He had known she was married. A few days later, Erin called me. She was crying. Jeffrey won't speak to me. I didn't say anything. He thinks I used him. I asked, Did you? No. Then she paused. I don't know. I think you used both of us. I didn't mean to. That doesn't change what happened. She was quiet. Then she said, Losing everything made me realize what I actually want. I knew what was coming. You. A few months earlier, hearing my wife say that would have meant everything. Now it sounded like the result of a failed experiment. That's convenient. It isn't like that. How is it different? Because I know what I almost lost. You didn't almost lose me. She went quiet. You lost me. After that, Erin started asking about reconciliation. She wanted counseling. She said the affair had already been falling apart before I discovered it. According to her, living with Jeffrey had ruined the fantasy. They had started arguing. He became jealous when she spent time with me. She was constantly worried I would notice something. She said she had begun realizing that whatever she had with him wasn't sustainable. I asked one question. When were you going to tell me? She didn't know. That was enough. Whatever doubts she may have had privately, she was still lying to me every day. She was still letting him sleep in our guest room. She was still telling me to trust her. Her family eventually found out. Kristen mostly stayed out of it. She told me she loved her sister but understood why I couldn't trust her anymore. Erin's mother felt differently. She called me and said 9 years of marriage deserved another chance. Then she said Erin had come back emotionally before I discovered the affair. I asked what that meant. She said Erin had already realized Jeffrey wasn't what she wanted. So did she end it? There was a pause. No, but did she tell me? Another pause. No. That was the problem. Everyone kept talking about what Erin supposedly felt. I could only judge what she actually did. My brother, Gregory, had the opposite reaction. When I told him the whole story, he stared at me. He actually lived there? Yeah. In your guest room? Yeah. And she asked you to let him stay? Yeah. Gregory shook his head. Only speak to her about the divorce. I understood why he said it. But shutting Erin out completely wasn't as easy as people made it sound. 9 years doesn't disappear because of one discovery. There were still moments when something funny happened and I instinctively thought about telling her. Sometimes I woke up and for a second, forgot she wasn't beside me. Then I remembered. I wasn't interested in revenge. I didn't post the screenshots. I didn't send them to her friends. I didn't contact her workplace. I didn't try to publicly humiliate Jeffrey. I kept the evidence because I needed it for myself and, if necessary, for the separation. That was enough. Jeffrey had lost his girlfriend. Then he lost Erin. From what I eventually heard, several people from their old friend group learned what happened and wanted nothing to do with either of them. Erin stayed with Kristen for a while before moving into a small apartment. She once told me she hated being there. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the message. I just need to figure out what I'd lose first. Now she knew. Months have passed. The guest room is empty again. Jeffrey's charger is gone. His shoes aren't by the door. His groceries aren't in the refrigerator. The house feels different. At first, I thought it felt lonely. Then I realized it felt peaceful. I can walk into my kitchen without wondering what conversations stopped before I arrived. I can sit on my couch without analyzing where two people are sitting. I don't have to second-guess every instinct. The affair hurt. But the part one have the hardest time getting past happened before I even knew the truth. I had looked my wife in the face and asked whether something was happening. She knew I was right. And instead of admitting it, she made me feel ashamed for asking. She watched me apologize. Then she hugged me and told me to trust her. That is the part one can't rebuild around. Erin says she understands that now. She says she was selfish. She says she was afraid to lose the marriage while also being afraid to walk away from Jeffrey. She says she kept delaying the decision because she thought she had time. I believe she regrets what she did. I even believe she would make different choices if she could go back. But regret doesn't restore trust. And choosing me after the other relationship collapses doesn't feel the same as choosing me when she had the opportunity. The divorce process is still moving forward. Erin occasionally asks whether I'm completely sure. The last time she asked, she sounded calmer than before. Do you really think there's nothing left to save? I thought about it. Because there are things left. Memories. Years. Holidays. Inside jokes. Ordinary mornings that were genuinely good. I don't believe our entire marriage was fake. So I told her that. I don't think every good thing we had was a lie. She started crying. Then I said, but I can't spend the rest of my life wondering whether I'm your first choice or just the safest one. This time, she didn't argue. I'm not leaving because Jeffrey won. He didn't. I'm not leaving because Erin ultimately chose him. She says she didn't? I'm leaving because she made me compete for my own marriage without telling me there was a competition. And once I learned that, being chosen afterward stopped feeling like a victory. So am I being too unforgiving by refusing reconciliation when my wife insists the affair was already falling apart? Or would taking her back only prove that she could make me her backup plan and still return when the other option failed?